I've always been a little bit skeptical about science, not in like a conspiracy theorist way, but like things always change, you know? One day Pluto's a planet and next day Pluto's not a planet, right? So it's just like...
One day you're in OP stack, now next day you're in
exactly, right? What's the truth? There's no such thing as science, just perspective.
How many chains does Manta have right now?
Two. So we've got Manta Atlantic, which is the Polkadot parachain, and then we've got the EVM, which is Manta Pacific.
Got it. L2. And right now it's on OP stack, which is now going to become ZK CDK using Polygon stack, right?
Yep, exactly.
So the transition from OP to ZK using Polygon CDK, was that a very unanimous decision at the time, or did it come very naturally, or like did you go back and forth on it? Did you discuss different factors?
Yeah, so it was definitely fairly unanimous. I don't think that there was anyone really against it, because at the end of the day for Manta, right, like one of our missions is to make everything as frictionless as possible, right? And there's definitely tons of friction still, right? Like even with ZK EVM, there's frictions, but eliminating the withdrawal times, increasing the security with cryptography rather than economics, right? Like those are all big benefits to the users. And so it was just a natural sort of decision to be made. I think even if not now, it would happen in the future. And I think like that's probably where the industry is tending towards anyway.
How do you see the entire CDK millions of roll-up narrative play out, right? Because so Capex was the first CDK to go live. Manta, thank you. Manta is now a CDK. OKX just launched their own, announced Immutable X, right? All big players now moving towards the CDK. Sandeep has said this a lot of times publicly, that he sees a future where there are going to be like millions of roll-ups, app chains, right? How do you see the space growing with so many L2s coming in?
Yeah, I think that I do agree with Sandeep that there will be millions of L2s. I think that my thought on how this works is, you know, we've tested the narrative of TPS already. Like we've tested it with L1s when people were trying to kill Ethereum, you know, like with EOS and like NEO and all this other stuff. And like we can do 50,000 TPS, whatever that means, right? And we're kind of playing out the same narrative in the L2 space right now. And the L2 space is like, oh, you know, we're solving scalability by doing this and that. But at the end of the day, like, come on, if we have 10x more users, you're still going to be paying like 10, 20 bucks per transaction, which is still extremely heavy, right? So the L2 narrative for scalability only goes so far as well. What I do think is really interesting is, and this may play out in the L2 space or it may play out in the L3 space. I think that the golden state of where Web3 should be headed, at least on the infrastructure level, is where either the L2s or the L3s essentially become like cloud servers, where they're all horizontally scalable. And so for an application to tap into scalability, they're not thinking, should I deploy on Manta or should I deploy on Scroll? They're thinking, I'm going to deploy this application, and there's some type of middleware that scales me out and says, okay, now all of a sudden with the number of users on my app, I need 3 L2s to be deployed. I need 5 L2s to be deployed to share the load. And then those L2s can be ephemeral in the sense that when you don't use them anymore, you can spend them down as well, right? And that kind of goes into shared state and all that stuff, which is another topic. But the point is, I think like, you know, at the end of the day, the infrastructure level, whether it's the L2 or the L3, becomes just nothing more than a scalability layer to sustain the application. And maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot by saying this, but what that means is, you know, while there's huge distinguishment between like the OKXs and the CapXs and the Mantas and the Scrolls and the ZK Syncs of the world today, I don't think in the future there will be that distinguishment. And I don't think there should be that distinguishment. It's like, I think we're all going towards the path of being commodities. And the applications will, you know, deploy on all of us, and they will use all of us for scalability purposes. And yeah, I mean, like all the things that set us apart today, I feel like they'll converge into one thing in the future.
Very well said. Are you a poet now?